Thank you and welcome to the show today. The topic this morning is Behind the Public Veil, the humanness of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And we're fortunate to have with us to talk about the humanness of Dr. Martin Luther King, Dr. LBaldwin. And of course, Dr. Baldwin, let me welcome you to the show today and to tell you how delighted we are and to tell you that we're happy to be able to deal with another of your many, many books. I think that you've been with us over the last 25 or 30 years, Dr. Baldwin.
It's been quite an honor.
And every time you come in, you bring a book with you.
Yeah.
You see, you've got so many books.
I'm thankful for that.
And you've made a very, very important contribution to the life and times of Dr. Martin Luther King.
Thank you so much.
What you have here, I think, will give us an opportunity to see Martin Luther King from an entirely different perspective than the Dr. Martin Luther King that you've presented to us, because you've talked about his assassination, you've talked about his trials and his tribulations, and Martin Luther King this and Martin Luther King that, and we're just delighted to have you here, Dr. Baldwin.
Thank you so much. It's always an honor.
And let us have you to give us some statements during this first segment in reference to who you are, and then get into talking about Dr. Martin Luther King and why you wrote this book, Behind the Veil.
Okay, I grew up in the Alabama Black Belt in Camden, Alabama, Wilcox County, Alabama, in the late 40s, 50s, during the days of segregation. So I was exposed to segregation. I attended segregated schools, graduated from Camden Academy High School in Alabama. From there, I matriculated at Talladega College in Alabama, graduating with a degree in history, BA degree in history, in 1971. And in the fall of 1971, I became a student at Crozer Theological Seminary in Rochester, New York. It had recently moved there from Chester, Pennsylvania. And I received the MA and the MDiv degree at Crozer Seminary, and the PhD degree from Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois. And since that time, 1980, I received the PhD degree. I've been writing, studying, doing research on the life of Martin Luther King Jr. And up to this point, I've authored 6 books on King, edited 2, co-edited 2, and co-authored 2, for a total of 12 books. So I've devoted much of my academic life, not only to teaching, but to writing about Dr. King.
Now, the book that you have now, Dr. Baldwin, deals with Dr. Martin Luther King from a different perspective entirely. Why don't you make some statements about that book, and then we'll come back and we'll allow you to elaborate on it after this first segment.
I wrote the book because we, I think, have lost a sense of the ordinary person, the human being that was Martin Luther King Jr. Every year, third Monday in January, we celebrate his birthday. But I think the ordinary person that was King, the human being that was King, has gotten lost in our annual national celebrations. And I wrote the book to sort of reclaim that ordinary, and Dr. King was an ordinary person on many levels. He was a human being. I understand the need to create superheroes. We live in a capitalistic society, and so we've created this larger-than-life figure, this iconic hero, this messianic figure, this superhuman personality. But Dr. King was an ordinary human being. And the book is really about reclaiming the ordinary person, the ordinary human being that was Martin Luther King Jr.
You know, I think that even the idea, Dr. Baldwin, is an inspiration to us all to understand that we don't always start, you didn't always start out as Dr. LBaldwin. There was somebody that was LBaldwin long before you matriculated in all of those institutions that you've attended. And so that's the same thing we're saying about Dr. Martin Luther King, I would imagine.
That's right.
He was not always delivering that speech, I have a dream, and etc. There was something about him before he got to that stage of being able to do that. And this is what you were saying that this book reveals.
This book reveals the very human side. We have this image of the man who made great speeches before thousands of people, who led large demonstrations, civil rights campaigns. But what about the man on his knees praying to God, asking for strength and asking for a deliverance? That is the human Martin Luther King Jr.
And so, Dr. Baldwin, what we'll do, we're going to take this first commercial break, and then the second segment of 8 minutes will allow you to devote that time to talking about the book and the human Martin Luther King. And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Yeah, you know, things that
eating
you want.
habits, his love for music, all that.
That's right. That's the Martin Luther King that we like to see.
That people don't know.
To know that he was just like everybody else.
Exactly.
You know,
and that we can all, you know,
relate to the fact of death and know that even though we might be ordinary,
we can strive to the same standards of excellence.
That's right.
That he strove for.
That's right. Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
he was not always Dr. Martin Luther King having a dream. Yeah, he was a young boy.
Martin Luther King Jr., the ordinary boy, the ordinary man.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's an inspiration to us all, though. That says something.
I've always told my students that. I've always approached it from that angle, you know.
So you can be anything you want to be.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. Strive toward excellence.
That's right.
Yeah. 1 minute out.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate this information.
Thank you, thank you.
We have to get this on tape, you see.
Thank you.
Do something in reference to this.
30 seconds.
Thank you and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. We're talking to Dr. LBaldwin, and he's given us some information in reference to a new book dealing with Dr. Martin Luther King. In an attempt, Dr. Baldwin, I think we've demonstrated this book on a number of occasions on this particular show, but in an attempt to sort of get into Dr. Martin Luther King behind the veil, behind the public veil. Let's start off where you wish to start.
Yes, I've tried to look at the Martin Luther King Jr., the personal qualities of Dr. King that endeared him to common, ordinary people that he met daily. He met a lot of common, ordinary people on the streets.